actually watching the like a little clip on that whole deal. Jennifer Lacey,
Good morning. How are you?
I am fantabulous.
Wonderful.
Yes, ma'am. I slept. I think I did a 12-hour hibernation.
Yes, we had an appointment yesterday, and you just went. You were out for the count.
I did. We didn't do a pop up yesterday. It's all my fault because I took a nap. It was like 5:45.
Oh yes, because it was like we got
We just
6:30. We were going to do a pop.
yep. And then I'm like, oh, it's 3 a.m. Damn it. Anyhow, so today, let's just let everybody know really quickly.
Yes.
We are going to be answering or examining the question, are you floating aimlessly?
Yes.
And we'll talk about where that idea came from, but we want to show some love and give a shout out. Mr. Aaron Gibson, the soul man. He says, good
Yes.
morning, you epic souls. What's up, Aaron? How you been?
This TikTok videos, like I again, I don't get on TikTok very often, but when I'm scrolling and him and his music and he comes in with his strut, I'm just like, it always makes my heart happy.
Yeah, he got it. Look, 7 o'clock coming in from Canada. Thank you, brother. Thank you for coming in super early. We've had some glitches, y'all. So, the normal tribe members out there in the Omniverse, I appreciate y'all being like patient and kind of working through the deal because not sure what it is, if it's a connection on the back end, but we create the event and then everything's fine. And then all of a sudden it starts at 3 a.m. So we had to create another event. Anyways, we're here. We're running a little experiment. So we're streaming on Jen's profile page on the LinkedIn and my profile page on the LinkedIn.
Yes.
And then, of course, YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. Oh, no, not Twitter. I didn't pick Twitter today. Anyhow, so we're going to be going at this. We got Mr. Adebambu coming in. He says, hi, my mentors. What's up? And then Aaron showing love. He says, oh, much appreciation for you both. So Jen, can you give us the backstory on the subject that we're talking about today?
Sure. And so it started with, for me, I think the conversation started because there were a couple of posts out there. Like Lance had a post and another person had a post about just your passion or your vision or getting stuck and just kind of some different things. And so I went in and kind of commented, and then it got me thinking, because it was like, how many of us, because I'm going to say I am one of those people that are out there and we are floating around, or we're kind of in this murky water, like it's not clear, but we're trying to like navigate through it. But I think my comment was like sometimes I feel like I'm in this murky water with a magnifying glass, and I'm like, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna find what I'm looking for in this murky water, which is like, how are you gonna do that? And so until you can let like the thing settle and you can get it to where you can actually see in front of you, like we're just like wandering around, like there's no direction. There's probably stuff that are pulling us different ways. We could easily see a fish swimming by like you and just start following the fish, and like, we get distracted and things like that. And so our goal today was just like kind of digging into that topic of, one, do you feel like you're kind of wandering and floating? And then how do you get clarity? And what are some of those things that we maybe need to let go of, the baggage, things like that are keeping us from being able to take those steps forward? Is that close?
I think you nailed it, girl. So, folks out there, No BS Tribe in the Omniverse, y'all best be ready because we are going to be talking about some stuff. Jen knows all my baggage, so she's probably going to make me talk about something
Yes.
shared. And I know her baggage too, so
we got some people on this.
We got some people coming in. We got DB Tunsil coming in saying with the big wave, what's going on, DB?
So if we forgot to do, okay, I know you're doing this. Let's just stop for a second.
Yep.
And then you can bring Buddy back up, but can you bring the blue hearts up? Okay, so if you are new and this is your first time, not just watching, but maybe you are, you're starting, do you want to engage a little bit? You want to let us know you're there, because we don't know you're there unless you type. And we're not asking you to get all deep and vulnerable, maybe for the very first time. But if it's your first time either listening or your first time, like actually, letting us know you're there with the wave and stuff, like put a blue heart in your comment. And if you don't know where to do that, you just right click and it gives you the emoji option, and then you can go in and do that. So that's like a little cheat code, but put a blue heart in there so that we, the two of us, can know that you're new. We can celebrate you, but then also all of our tribe members that are here and that are like engaging, they can jump in and they can connect with you and they can follow your content and stuff like that. So yes.
Boom. Yes. Blue heart. We want to know you're here because like straight up, we don't know you're here unless you comment and let us know that you're there. And if you're not ready for that, I understand.
Yes, we know they're out there.
Right. And especially you people, you know who you are, that come up later and say, man, that show was awesome. I'm like,
you're like, what?
You're like, yeah, I was watching. I was like, well, why don't you say something? Anyway, I love that y'all actually do spend the time to come out and hang with us on Saturday morning. So I want to give a shout out to Mr. Buddy Brumley. He says, dang it, I'm floating in the deep water. And then another DFW troublemaker, Jim Guntorius says, good morning.
Yes.
Then we got Miss Vicki Allen. She says, hi, Jen.
Good morning, Vicki. How are you? Super glad you're here today.
Yes, Vicki, and please don't give her too much attention. She
Vicki's a blue heart. Yeah, she already added a blue heart. Vicki's a blue heart. So y'all connect with Vicki and jump in and let her know how much we love our people.
Oh my God. Steve Martin, the chief marketeer. Buenos dias from the CT Connecticut. I know we got my buddy Lance Furuyama. We got to hang out yesterday. He's on here. For some reason, it's not making the feed, but I see you, baby.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, we got a bunch. All right,
so we got people coming in. Oh, Jared, I really quickly invited him this morning. He's in the middle of some moving and relocating and doing some crazy stuff right now. And so, Jared, thank you for jumping in today.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Okay, so we still got some more love.
Yes.
Amut is back, coming in from Toronto. It's a love that he would be back engaged with the emotional bungee jumpers.
Nice.
He sent me a message, and I appreciate you sending me that message, Amut, because I was like, man, is he okay? He went back home to spend time with his family for a month, so he's back. Glad you're back, my brother.
Yes.
And then we got Minnie. You know Minnie here?
I do. Good morning, Miss Martin. She showed up in a Minnie Mouse costume yesterday.
She did. She wore the costume. It was so. Did you like my blonde hair?
Just don't do that again.
I got it right.
No.
Intermission.
I'm scared because we have another show. Our next show is like the weekend before Halloween. I'm kind of scared. I'm scared how you're going to show up.
We got to do costumes. We got to. Then we got Mr. David Renner. What are you doing? How you doing, my friend?
Morning.
Welcome.
Good morning, David.
Oh, man. Look here. Angel Lavecchio, Curious Idealist. She says, good morning, friends. And then the troublemaker. Bruce, how you doing, brother? We will absolutely have the after party today.
Yes.
And also, I overlooked the blue heart. So David dropped the blue heart.
Yes,
so you already know, y'all. Go connect with him, follow him, support him. Welcome, my friend. Appreciate you coming up here. All right. So, folks, y'all, let us know where you're at. Let us know where you're coming from, and be ready to answer some questions because we've got some stuff baked up for you.
Stuff we need y'all to contribute to the conversation.
Absolutely. And so the big overarching question, and you went over it and you did a fabulous job, Jen, like, are you floating aimlessly? There's a conversation about, I'm doing this thing. Sometimes it just feels like it's mud and it's murky water. And what the hell are we doing? And so we decided, let's have a conversation.
Yes.
So like, what's the first thought that comes to mind for you on your path, Jennifer Lacey? Around, are you in a direction? Are you stuck? Are you moving? What's it feel like? Where are you at?
I think for me, when I knew we were going to dig into this, like the first thing that popped in my head is like thinking about my career and thinking about like progress and like things that I've done and choices I've made, but also like the times that I just got the floaty and I just like went out on the water and I like had no direction and I was out there and I was floating around and I was making progress here and there, but like literally had no direction as to where I wanted to go. I was checking the boxes. I was doing everything I was supposed to do. And so I wasn't drowning. I wasn't, doing things that were causing me to, to go backwards, but I wasn't going forward. That's to me, like, those are visuals that I can think about versus like being super intent on, I'm trying to get over there, or I'm trying, like, this is my direction. And so what are the things I'm doing? I got to get out of the floaty. I got to get to a point to where, whether it's swimming or it's, I'm making progress towards something. Like, to me, that is the overarching, where are you on your path? Where are you? Do you feel stuck? Do you feel like you're just there and you don't have the ability, you don't have the momentum, you don't have what it is that helps you take that step? And you and I talk about this a lot, Jesse, is let me be clear. I'm not sure where the end is. I still don't know where it is I'm trying to go, to the point where I go, oh, I made it. But I know that every day we do things, I'm not standing still. And that I am moving in a direction to something better, to something that I feel is impacting me more, is impacting the people around me, and serving the people that matter to me. Like, I know I feel those things as I'm moving in that direction, and as I'm figuring out, and the water's kind of getting clearer for me to help me understand what that means. So that's kind of what all of this is, and what I kind of thought about when we talked about this topic. So
yeah, and I love that you talked about that space or period of time where you were present, you were doing the things, following directions, executing on tasks, but you felt like you were just stuck. How did you, I'm going to say this and then I'll ask the question. I think I know I've been there, and I know a lot of people that are exactly there right now. Some of them know that they're in that situation and it feels uncomfortable, and they're like, what the hell's going on? What is this? What, blah, blah, blah. Some of them don't, like, they're just doing it and it's not a problem. And so there's this thing that happens somewhere, some reason, that you're just floating along with if anybody's ever been on the Guadalupe River here in San Antonio, like, you float in the summer and it's just bank to bank of the river, everybody's on tubes, and you really can't tell that you're moving because everybody is moving at the same pace, and you're just kind of there, but you've actually progressed down the river quite a bit. Now, in real life, what's happening is we're all kind of there and progressing down the time horizon, meaning the clock is ticking, baby. Yes. And then all of a sudden you get separated from the pack, and you can see the rate at which time is passing. You can see, like, oh my goodness, I've moved this distance and all I've done is sit here.
Yes.
So what was that moment that you separated from the pack and all of a sudden looked around and said, wait a minute, the conditions around me are transforming rapidly and I'm not transforming?
Just that. I think for me, it was a little bit of like the career. I'm in construction. So the career I was in, some of that to me was stability. So some of that was kind of stabilizing to kind of go, okay, where am I? What am I doing? And being able to be aware of that. And then for me, it was just the people that were around me, and engaging with people that literally were on water skis and were like flying by me and were going. And I mean, they were going, and I'm like, I can continue to sit here and I can continue to be content in where I'm at. But like, those are cool people and they're like changing the freaking world. Like, I don't know if I can keep up with them right now, but like, how do I know they're going that way? And I kind of want to go that way too. Like, for me, that was the thing that shifted in my brain. Like that all of a sudden it wasn't, I'm just trying to keep up. It was like, I want to do what they're doing. And and they were in construction. So it wasn't like I now want to be able to build, $500 million projects. Like it wasn't that, it was the things they were doing, the way they were impacting our industry, their teams, our, people, and how they were showing up and how they were doing things differently. I'm just like, I want to be in that space.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's rather.
It's a segue to you now because I had some questions now.
Well, sure. After we recognize our amazing tribe,
of course.
So we got Felipe, right? And folks, like for real, if you want a cheat code to figure out if you're stuck and how you want to like get moving, it's the people around you, right? Like the people around me help me understand what's possible. And also,
what's stupid?
If I'm not careful, the people around me are helping me stay stuck exactly where I'm at.
Yes.
Then we got Miss Magana Dakan. She says, "What's going on, Magana?" She says, "I can so resonate with you. We keep on doing things, but still somehow we have no idea where we are going ahead." Right. And I want to be clear, like, this is not a judgment.
No.
This is a fact that I have been there. And for me, the big thing is I don't have to be there, right? I can do it differently. I can do things on purpose so that I can separate from the pack and not just float along while time is evaporating. Mr. Chris, what's up, Chris? Chris says burnout is very real. Take time for your mental health. So even though we're just on that, we're going to keep using the river analogy.
Yeah.
Even though we're just on that river floating along with everybody else, we are burning out, right? Like you're spinning your wheels and putting out energy and doing the things that you're supposed to be doing with very little fulfillment coming back. Yes. And sacrificing yourself entirely. And if you've done it on the river without the sunblock, your ass is going to burn. You come out red. So you got to take care of yourself while you're going along the way. Who else we got here? We got Mr. Vincent coming in from the Deuce Dime. What's up, Vince? Coming in from San Antonio. And then James Gable coming in.
Good morning, James.
What's up, James? How you been, my brother? The Uncommon Communicator. Yes. You got to go check him out if you haven't. And if you're on TikTok, he has a TikTok page account. It's the Uncommon Chef. And he posts like the most seductive videos. They're all about food. So if you can't tell, if you want to get me, just give me some food and you got me. There's one more comment I want to go, and then you can hit me with your question, Jennifer Lacey. So Mr. DB Tunsil says, has anyone, after you correct the aimless floating, start progressing, and you decide you want to go into a different direction?
That's a good question.
That's a perfect question. And then Will Sullivan says, hi, what's up, Will? All right, so DB, that's a phenomenal question. Yes. And then you had the question. So
I do, but I want to, I think it'll feed into that a little bit in a minute. Okay. Just kind of this progress. So 2 things I want to ask you that I think play into this conversation. 2 stories that I think you can tell. So we were floating on the river. We'll stay with that. Okay. So 2 things. Number 1 is when we're floating and the people around us are bumping us and we're getting splashed and we're getting irritated. Right. And yet all we do is just stop and make a phone call and go, these people, they just won't get out of my way. They won't whatever, but we're not doing anything else. So do you have a story of maybe like you're in a space and there's some crap going on, yet you're not making any changes or doing anything to change the environment?
Yes, I do. And folks, just so y'all know, Jennifer just talked about before we went live. And now, like, so warning, what we call use ammunition. So yeah, I mean, and it touches on the question, right, that DB brought up, right? After you correct the aimless stuff, and is there a change in direction? For me, absolutely. So the situation that Jen is tattletelling on me about is I was, early in my career, I was a plumber. And then I became a foreman, not because like it was my goal to be a foreman. I was just sick and tired of all the other sorry ass foremen. Like I knew I could treat people better than they did. Um, and so I took the job. And then I was a foreman and I did pretty good at it. And there was a superintendent position open and I didn't apply for it. And the production manager sat me down. He's like, "Hey, Jess, why, like, you haven't applied for the superintendent role?" I was like, "Yeah, I know. Like, I don't want to be a superintendent. Like, what? I'm fine." Because my goal then was just to kick every other foreman's butt,
Right.
period. Like, I didn't want promotions. I just wanted to beat everybody. And he said to me, because I'm pretty vocal, right? Like Jen pointed out, like, especially, I've always had this thing where I have very high expectations of people in leadership positions. And so anytime superintendents were like being less than awesome, I complained and I raised the flag and I brought the issues forward. Not just complaining, like there were real issues that needed to be resolved. And he says, "Jess, I see you haven't applied for this job. I can't tell you who's applied for it, but there are other foremen that are your peers." I was like, "Okay." And he says, "And if you don't apply for the job, I don't want to hear jack squat from you about how great or how poor a superintendent they are." And I was like, "You dirty dog." Like he called me out, right? Like he really said, you're proactive and you always bring issues up, but you're not doing anything about it. Like this is your opportunity to do something about it. He didn't say it in those words, but that's what I felt. I'm like, damn it, you're right. I got to do something. And so that's probably when the idea or the philosophy, it's one of the philosophies that I adhere to, is don't complain about anything you're not prepared to take action on.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I should have learned that lesson when I was an apprentice, because I used to always complain, like, there's no cold water, we don't have ice, this is, the jug's empty, you're treating us poorly. Guess what happened? I became in charge of the water. And so like it's exactly that. If I'm not prepared to take action on something that bugs me, I don't need to complain about it.
No.
Right? Suck it up or do something about it. One or the other. And complaining is not enough. Now, so back to the question that DB brought, right, is after you correct the aimless floating, because I was doing good. I was kicking butt. I was beating everybody. And I progressed. Did my direction change? Absolutely. Absolutely. And so the best way I can maybe highlight what that looked like, because it's continuously evolving, is as I started embracing the natural gifts and talents that I had, capacity and what's the word? We'll just say prowess, like my aptitude to lead and listen and design systems and evaluate things and connect things and people began to present themselves. And so I had to oh shoot, let me go develop those things. Let me tinker around with them. Let me provide value through doing those things. And when I say provide value, I mean serve others. How do I best serve? And it's this continual path of me discovering how I best serve, figuring out how to do it really well. Mm-hmm. And then what happens is, as I'm delivering that and helping people minimize their pain, etc., new capabilities present themselves. I learn new skills. I develop a different network. I find a different venue to serve. And then I got to learn how to play at that level. And so it's this continuous thing of, okay, now that I have a direction, I'm not just floating around complaining anymore. All these other things start revealing themselves. And to me, they're the whispers. Y'all have heard me talk about the whispers. Mm-hmm. I just listen. I have to listen to the whispers and take action in that direction.
Okay. So amazing response. So I have a follow-up. And so the things you were talking about, it's the progress, it's the changing direction. Mm-hmm. Can you dig in a little bit and maybe bring in some personal examples if you want, but the judgment sometimes we have of people that when we look backwards And we're looking at those people that are so lazy and so they don't have any direction, they don't have any drive, they don't have any momentum because they're just back there floating. And they're just not, and I know they have all these possibilities and they have all this opportunity and they're just throwing it away. Like where we look back and we're just continually focused on those people back there that could be better. And how does that impact our path and where we're going and what we're doing? Can you dig into that a little bit?
Damn you, Jennifer. Hey, y'all need to help me out here. Y'all need to ask Jennifer a question. Yeah, so I'm going to answer that. And I want to ask a question, pose this question to the Omniverse, to the tribe out there. What pulls you off your path? And the reason that question is relevant to my response, because my path is my path. Right? And I got to figure that out. And the people around me that care about, there are people around me that care deeply and worry about me because, I'm a little, I enjoy risk and I do crazy stuff and I've done a lot of crazy stuff. But the people around me sometimes out of care are like questioning me, like, is that practical? Does that make sense? Why would you do that? You have a great job. You have blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, yeah, I feel you. But I don't have to take that, right? I can release that. So that's one thing. Now, early on when I was, we'll say foreman, superintendent, all the things that I was doing for a little while, I had that attitude about why don't they want to do better for themselves? Right. And so to be clear, when I say they, I was talking about the apprentices and the journeymen that I worked with in this one business unit. And I was very judgmental about them. And my peers were the same way, right? Project managers, superintendents, like people, they just don't want to, there's just no initiative and they don't want better for themselves. It's very easy to get distracted by that. Now, it was a long time before I could understand that it wasn't that they didn't want better for themselves. Because what I was really saying is, why don't they want the life that I have? Why don't they live the way that I live? And Fernando Cortinas is the one that like nailed me between the eyes and really helped me say like, holy crap, I've been doing all this other amazing stuff. And so he was like the third person I interviewed on the Learnings and Missteps podcast because I picked him. I mean, he's kind of the avatar that the podcast was based on. But anyways, one day I'm like, God, like he had the influence, right? People listened to him. He could lead people. He could get people riled up, and he just had those natural capabilities. Like, God darn it, Fernando, like you need to be a foreman. Why don't you be a foreman? Finally, one day he said, look, Chess, I appreciate you believing in me and wanting me to like make more money or whatever. He said, but here's what I see. All of you people, y'all work crazy, crazy hours. You're obsessed about the job and about all of these things. He's like, and I get it. He's like, but if I had to do that job, I would have to stop doing the other things that I'm doing. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? He's like, look, I just adopted my kids, my kids, him and his wife adopted the kids. So they're raising a new family. He's part of a nonprofit program that provides awesome things to the very poor community here in San Antonio. He's like, I'm not okay with like sacrificing those things. And at that moment, I'm like, oh my God, like you're right. What you're doing, serving the community and adopting these kids, potentially has greater impact on the community at large than taking a stupid promotion. All right. And so the energy that I was putting into judging people for not wanting better for themselves is wasted energy. Right. I would be better served to support him in those efforts. And so we did. I'm like, bro, like, we have like this annual United Way thing. Why don't we let your deal be our big service event again? So we connected that and we made that happen. So all of a sudden it helped me understand that, okay, people ain't making the moves that I make, and people don't want to that new position, that new promotion, because it's going to take them away from the things that bring them fulfillment already. My problem was I hadn't discovered what brought me fulfillment yet. And I just, through the job and like because getting promotions and making a lot of money, that's easy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like it takes
work,
that's
the status quo. That's the status quo. Like
yep, you do that, you're gonna get a raise, you're gonna get a promotion, you're gonna get a bonus. Like that path is laid.
Mm-hmm.
What he was doing was creating something monumental that was not, there was no laid path. It was work and sacrifice and effort in service to others. And so I'm like, okay, I got to figure out how to live that life.
Right.
So that's my answer, Jennifer.
I love that answer. And so what it made me think of, and that we can pose this out to the audience too, is I think sometimes we get so caught up in the plan and the what we think. And Maria had a good one of like, just our path is ours, yours path is yours. Like really, we sometimes we get caught up in like putting our thoughts and our ideas and what someone should be doing, and that starts where we're starting to judge them because of that. But I'm gonna challenge people that when you walk up and you are starting to have a conversation with someone, like watch how they're reacting to you and watch how they function, because I like the water analogy. We'll stay with that. But like they could be drowning. They could be trying to just stay above water. And if that's where they are in their space, whether they need you to take something off of their plate or they are trying to just get the job done, and then you're piling something on them and you're asking them to direction and goals and mission and vision, like, and they're just like struggling to like just stay above water and to be able to survive. Like if you're not paying attention to those things, one, they're going to burn out. Somebody said that, we've got other things that can happen in that space, but it's our goal. It's our mission. It's our purpose, to be able to recognize that. And then what are we going to do about it? Because if we just sit there and judge them and go, well, they got themselves in that spot. They're the ones that didn't prepare. They're like, if that's how we react to things that we see like that, then we are failing. We are failing what we're supposed to be doing. Because every one of us, and I'm looking at all these names over here, they're all in positions to impact and influence and to do things for people. And if we are in a space, and not many people are here, because I know we're all in this journey together, is that if we're not recognizing that, how are those people ever going to get to a place to where they can just like look at the horizon when they're just trying to survive?
100%. So there's some comments in here. We got to match up. So DB Tunzel says, I simply ask, you are right. My path isn't someone else's. And we got to know that. Mm-hmm. Maria Minnie Martin says, no judgment for folks floating or going step by step. Your journey is yours and my journey is mine. You and I had a conversation about solutionizing the other day. I was like, hey, I think there's something else going on with this solutionizing thing. And what I mean by, for folks that are new and haven't heard solutionizing is the cousin to unsolicited advice. It's when we come in with all of our wisdom and our knowledge and impose it on other people, whether they asked for it or not. Yes. That is solutionizing. And so, one of the things because a lot of us do that in our work because of the conditions of work and all that other stuff. And we create dependency, etc. Another thing that I think happens, or the reason that we stopping or breaking the solutionizer habit is so difficult, is because the ego boost that I get from blessing people with all of my wisdom, right? Like, and so there's a deeper thing there. Meaning if my efforts and the words and all of that are in service to others, that's a very different path than my efforts and words and energy in serving myself. And so if I'm jumping in to give you all my cheat codes and all the things that I've done and how you should do it and what you should do, And I'm doing that to feel good about myself because I can say
that dopamine boost. Yes.
right, like I helped that person.
Mhm.
There's a problem there. That
Mhm.
that creates immediate disconnect because the other person can sense that.
Mhm.
And then I wonder, like, okay, why aren't they taking my advice? They never freaking asked for it.
That's not what they were
One, and
looking for.
two, I wasn't giving advice to serve them. I was giving advice to serve me
And feel better.
and feel better about me, right? Like, what do you think, Jen?
No, I 100% agree. And in our conversation, it was, we were digging into like why people, and it's not even a why. Like we work in a industry, a construction industry that there's a lot of egos. There's a lot of seasoned people that are they're the big person on campus, and they've come in and they've got experience, they've got tenure, they've done a lot of amazing things, and they are in spaces to where it's almost like they wear that as a badge, and they've got to make sure to prove, hey, I've done this, I know, so I don't need to hear what you have to say, I already know, or I already tried that, it didn't work. Like those are conversations that we see and hear all the time. And because that's the industry we're in, having to prove ourselves, validating our credibility, all those things that you and I talk about all the time, it's we lead with that. We lead with, let me prove myself, let me prove that I bring value, let me prove to you that I know more, that I've got it, that I can do this, without ever like stopping and even thinking about what's the ask. I mean, we'll be in a conversation with people, and again, most people, because of who those senior people are that come in like that, they're not going to push back. They're not going to go, no, that's not what I was asking. They just listen, and then they go on, and there was no value exchanged because we didn't ask, and the person that was there wasn't receiving it because that's not what they were looking for. So all of that, we talk about waste in our industry, like how much of that happens, and then like both people leave thinking this is not what I asked for. Oh, I have now graced them with all of this knowledge, and now they're going to go and be amazing. Like all of this happens, and like none of that is what is actually going to bring value.
Yes. Yes. And so, like breaking the habit and getting clear on how do we do that? How do we serve each other? For me, the one of the big things that has helped me, and James Gable points it out, right? It's the people around me help me see what's possible. And so if I surround myself with floaters, that's funny. I didn't mean it that way. But if I surround myself with floaters,
there are some out there,
right? And solutionizers, guess what? Like I'm naturally going to be displaying that behavior. Now, when I surround myself with people that are actually going to take action on things instead of just complain about them, guess what? My behavior changes. And now on that change, Curious Idealist points this out, and this is real, and I think people are feeling it. Angel says, I think it's important to be ready to change directions. When you pick a destination, there may be multiple paths to get there. Mm-hmm. She goes on to say, when we start one way and it's not working, we need that GPS to say rerouting.
Right. Right. It doesn't mean someone else's path is wrong, even though y'all may be going kind of trying to get to the same place. I think a lot of times that judgment that we talked about earlier is like, that's wrong because that's not my path, or that's not the way that I'm getting there. And we don't stop and realize that like there's not many places on this earth that there's not multiple paths to be able to get there.
Yes. And you already know my cheat code. My cheat code is do the damn thing, make a decision and head that way. Now, there's a lot of things that can take us off our path that'll steal our attention. And James shares, as someone that doesn't enjoy risk, inaction and the now keep me from my own path. What do you think about that, Jennifer Lacey?
Inaction. Yes, I agree. And so I think it goes back to where the very first response I said, it's the people around you. It is the people around you that it's again, all of us need that stabilization, that rest, reflection, those times of like, okay, let me get settled. Because if you're constantly, on a boat, or you're in the waves and you're constantly fighting and pushing, and like you need to get a breath and all those things, and it keeps hitting you, and you're trying to, like, you're not going to be able to, like, okay, here's, like, this is the next step. And so I don't think he says inactivity, but I'm just inaction. But I literally have to stop and look at it as, if I'm trying to stabilize and I'm trying to, like, get that moment of clarity, sometimes you have to, like, stop, and you have to assess, and you have to, get feedback, because you and I talk a lot, and there's times where I call you, and, like, the feedback helps me go, okay, I need to keep taking these steps. And then also that feedback sometimes makes me go, ooh, like, I'm taking steps here, but if I'm really, my passion is here, I need to be, like, shifting and taking steps here. Like, having that feedback and having, kind of that, the mirror is one thing, but also having those people around you that are holding the mirrors, and that will give you that genuine, okay, this is what I think, this is what I feel. Like, I think we have to have that stabilization, and it can look like inactivity, it can look like inaction, and it can look like, what the heck? Like, you said you were going to do these things, and I don't see any progress. And what do you like that it can look like that. So
Yes.
if we just make assumptions and we don't have the conversation, and you're really good about, like, okay, where are you with this, Jennifer? When I start talking, you're like, oh, like, there is stuff going on, and you are, like, thinking about things and doing it. It just may not look very visible to the people that are around you.
I love it. And so I'm glad you opened the door, Jane.
Oh, no, that's not what I was doing.
There's two. I'll give you some time to get warmed up. There's two comments that I'm going to use to set this up. So the chief marketeer, Steve Martin, says, what pulls him off the trajectory is overthinking. Mm-hmm. The solution, he thinks, is don't aim for being the best. Just focus on getting better. All right. So I agree. I think that's powerful stuff. Then James Gable again says, I see two other key points here. Be the best that you can at every level. And when you don't see your own potentials, others do.
If you're hanging out with the right people. Yes.
If you're hanging out with the right people. Now, Jen, you you gave a very loose overview of the situation that I know that you're in the middle of right now.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. And so the conditions around you have changed dramatically. Mm-hmm. And you are being invited to different things, and different, you're having bigger ask of you personally. Mm-hmm. And for a period of time, you were in a stagnant state.
Well, yes, that is correct.
And recently you've hit a point that you're no longer stagnant. Share what that has been like and how you got from there to here.
Okay, and yes, I will talk through this, because it's scary, but it's also I do a lot within my firm, and I have a lot of roles and responsibilities and doing some amazing things and have great support there. But based on the stuff you and I do, and also the other things in the industry and connections and relationships, my asks and maybe some connections outside have also wanted me to engage and be able to help and support, and again, making our industry better. What does that look like? And helping companies and individuals get better. And so some of those asks were starting to come. And I have a full-time job. I have a mom. I have a lot of things going on. And so I'm going to say it was a little scary, because I'm just like, how do I balance this? But it also was like, what do I want? Mm. And it wasn't that I was like, I don't care about anybody else. This is all I want. It was never that. It was just trying to get clarity on, like, what does my future path look like? What all do I want to do? How do I want to help people? And I think it took me a while, and it was you reminders and what are you doing and what are you thinking? It took me a while to realize that where I have been and what I have defined as my purpose and my value, and those things have gotten bigger. Mm. And so I was, I've been with a company for 20 years. Like that's a long time to have influence and impact and to be changing the way we do work and all that. And so you get caught up and sometimes in the things you're doing and you're making progress. So that 1% better, that whatever, like those things were happening. But the influence and impact outside of that were exponential. And I was like, I almost was like keeping it at bay or kind of blocking some of it out because I was just like, I need to focus on this. And as soon as I like took down the blinds and took down all the things that were keeping those things out, I started seeing how everything connected. And I started seeing how the things I was doing inside my firm were now able to influence and impact people at other places because I'd done it. And now I can help other people. And then even the things outside of my firm, now I can see how they can bring connections with other opportunities within our firm. So like all these things now started intermingling, and I wasn't just like, oh, I got to keep this here and I got to keep this here and I got to keep this here. As soon as I just took all that down and was able to like be me in all of those places, now I was like, oh my gosh, now I can help here and I can help here. And my value and my worth is growing, but also I don't feel like I'm just like, I got to make choices. I know that's weird, but I felt like I was having to choose. It was this or this. And
yes.
as soon as I like allowed myself just to, and again, my firm is, and you know this, they support everything I'm doing, and they've been amazing at elevating and sharing the things that, that I do outside of work. But it's being that person and being able to go, I can bring value here, but I also can influence an industry. And if I don't take all the blinders off and I don't allow that to be, that I am not serving the way that I'm supposed to be serving.
100%.
That was scary.
Thank you for that, Dan.
That was super scary, just saying that out loud.
I bet. So, folks, like I got to be a witness and the provocateur on the other side of that because I could see it. And so if we zoom out another level, it was Jennifer had to make a decision. And this is what I was pushing. Like, it was very difficult for me not to impose what I wanted for her. Like super damn difficult. I really like, God damn it, Jennifer, just do this. That's what I wanted to say. But what she needed was she had to make a decision. She had to make the decision between yes and or either or. And she was there for a long time, for a very long time, believing that she had to continue doing one or the other. And then this was like last week, man? Yeah. It was last week, Jen. I'm like, yes. I was excited that she made the decision. Neither of those decisions, like in terms of your security, your career, your finances, neither one was going to destroy it.
No.
But the decision had to be made. Is it going to be yes and?
Mm-hmm.
Or will it be either or?
Mm-hmm.
And you decided yes and.
Yes.
And so the reason I think that's really, really important, folks, is there's going to be a lot of really great opportunities in front of us. We don't have to take all of them. Actually, we want to don't the number of opportunities that we're going to take. What really absolutely I recommend to help like filter through and make the decision about what opportunities you're going to take, you first have to answer this question. And this is not an easy question to answer. The question is, what is your path? For me, I answer that question by examining how do I best serve? And so people in the Omniverse, I'd love to hear your first draft, rough draft guess of what is your path? What do you think it is? Where are you walking right now? What would you like it to be? Any and all of the above. Because I promise you, once you start thinking about the response to this question, the answer starts revealing itself. And when I'm taught like super, I want to be extra rigid about this, not the path of your company, not the revenue growth of your department. I'm talking about the person that is in the chones that you're wearing right now. That human being, what is your path as an individual, as a human being? And get there. And look, DB bringing it in. He says self-assessment is crucial. That's absolutely what we're talking about right now.
Mhm.
Self-assessment. And that's hard. And I recommend getting an accountability buddy to help you with that self-assessment, to
Mhm.
challenge you and push you and question you. Friends like Yesenia
From
Garcia.
all the way from Cancun. What?
Watch
Good
out,
morning,
man.
Yesenia.
Good morning, Yesenia. And friends like
Good morning, Ian.
Smith. Good morning, Ian. Thanks for showing up, my friend. So let's see. We got a good question from the Omniverse. And first, though, Felipe says, do
Yes.
the damn thing.
Yes.
Do something. Pull the trigger because you're going to learn. Amut says, what do y'all think the difference between being in a boat with the crew paddling in different directions and being alone in a canoe not paddling?
Jesse, that's a great question for you to tackle.
We're
shifting this right back over to you.
I was not ready for, God darn it, you got me. Son of a gun. All right, so I'll start by responding this way. And kind of leaning on DB's contribution in terms of self-assessment, right? And so, Amut, what I'm taking from your question is this. I've been there, right? When I was a foreman and when I was a journeyman, like I felt like I was in a boat and every damn fool on that boat was paddling in different directions. What I didn't know was that I could get on my own canoe. Right. And so when I finally got in my own canoe, right, when my boss said, hey, fool, if you don't apply for this job, I don't want to hear you complaining about nothing. All of a sudden, I gained awareness about myself and what I could do about the situation. Now, as much awareness that I had about how dysfunctional my team was or how dysfunctional the organization was and how poor leaders and like all the complaining, like I knew all of that. And I was an expert at pointing those things out. What I didn't have a body of work on was managing myself and setting direction for myself and actually doing the things that I had been complaining about. Mm-hmm. I was a freaking critic, right? I was Monday morning quarterback. All of a sudden, when I put myself in that canoe alone, I had to find the paddles, right? And I had to do it wrong. And I spun around in circles for a little while.
Floated on them down the river.
Yeah. And I said, then I got tired and said, screw it. I'm just going to float down the river for a little bit. And then I learned how to get like direction and I learned how to like navigate and turn a little bit left and turn a little bit right and learned that, hey, I need to stop and take a break every now and then. And so my answer is back kind of to the question, what is your direction? I had to understand how I best served. And then I had to figure out how to paddle. And so what I want the takeaway to be there, the key point is if you're just now getting in your own canoe and you don't know how to paddle, that doesn't mean you suck. That's the way it is. Mm-hmm. You got to learn how to paddle. Yeah. You got to learn how to understand what the hell is going on. How fast is this water moving? How choppy is the water? How flat? Like all of those things that we've been complaining about being on the boat with the crew, there was a lot of experience there. Nobody was listening to each other. But now that I'm the sole captain of this ship, I got a lot of things to learn. And it's going to be painful. It's going to be embarrassing. You're going to feel lost. And you know what? There's people around you that can help you learn the skill that you need to learn today. And so you and I, Jen, have talked about this a bunch. People show up early in their career or new to a role, new to a thing, and we want to be the excellentest, most fantastical person in the role ever. And we haven't learned the fundamentals. We don't have a body of work beneath us or behind us that says we know how to handle this. We know how to work through the storms and the hard times and the thin times. And so we're better served by building our fundamentals. And the way to do that is access people that can guide you, that have done it before, to coach you through the fundamentals. What do you think, Jen?
100%.
How did I do on my answer?
No, amazing answer. But it makes me think about, like, and you said, like, going out and doing it and doing it and doing it. Like, how did we learn how to ride a bike? I mean, I don't know how many people are out there that can say their very first pull plan was like a rock star, amazing. Everybody was going and writing and like, it's going to be, I call it controlled chaos. And like, if you embrace that it's going to be controlled chaos, and that's what it is. Like, it's not going to be perfect, but did something happen that now is going to get you one step closer to something else? That's two people talk that never talked before. We get so in these big, elaborate, this is our goal, this is what we want to do, this is the mission. And if we do not hit all of those things, then it was a fail. It didn't work. But we got to stop. We've got to stop getting so focused on that, and like being in the room and being present. And like, you and I talk a lot, and you tell me, like, our goal was to come in and do a pull plan, and we got people in there. And by the end, like, we got this much of the pull plan done, but this is all the other things that happened, and these connections and these conversations. And then now going into the next one, we are in such a better place. Like, how many times do people get so caught up on that was what the goal is, that's what the mission is, that we lose sight of all these other things?
Yes. Small wins are crucial. And like, not for me, the biggest distraction I have that gets me off my path is the big sexy win, right? Going from 0 to 1 is an enormous accomplishment. Getting off center, making the decision is a ginormous accomplishment. And so recognizing that, I'd had 0 pull plans as of yesterday. I just facilitated my first one. Huge. These people never talked to each other before, and we didn't find constraints until they screwed work up. We found 6 before they stopped work. Huge. Yes. But we get distracted by the big giant outcome. We shaved 938 days off the schedule. You will eventually. This is your first one.
Yes.
So there's some good stuff coming up.
Yes.
Angel offers this insight to Amu. She says, I think the difference is the type of effort required to get the boat moving. In the canoe, it's all on you. In a boat with the crew, it's about everyone.
Okay, so can I dig into that just a little bit?
Girl.
What that makes me think of is, and probably some of you have seen it, when they talk about engagement and they talk about the boat. And most boats have those people in the front that are like leading the way, and they are like, we're going to change the world. And you have some people in the middle that are kind of like, okay, I can kind of get on board with this. I'm still trying to be convinced, but I can paddle. And then you have those people in the back of the boat trying to sink the dang thing. And so, and like, there's a lot of teams that is kind of what's happening. You've got those high achievers, those people that high performing, ready to change the world. You have the people in the middle that are kind of like, I can see that. Yeah, I can get behind that. I'm not quite, I'm not ready to dig in, Fernando. I'm not ready to completely be that person, but I can get on board. And then you got those people that are miserable, that are just not happy, that do not want to be there. And they are doing everything they can to pull it backwards. And so going back to Angels, like the boat, and there's everyone there, like you also have to be aware of your team and the people and who's there, and that it's okay to switch people out. It's okay to tell people we care about you as a human being, and we know that you are good at what you do. You're just going to have to go do that somewhere else. Like, those are sometimes hard conversations. And if we don't have them, if we don't assess and we don't see some of the toxicity or some of the things that are not jiving, like, that boat is not going to go anywhere but in a circle, and or to the bottom of the ocean. Like, it's just not going to make progress. And so there's that piece. And then tie that with whether we're in our own canoe or not, what is our circle of control and what is our circle of influence?
Yes.
And so on that canoe, like we have 100% control. What are we influencing? On the boat, we have a lot of influence. How do we create the control? How do we find the control? And is that control just to be able to make connections, the connectivity, the relationships, the people part? Like there's all, again, I'm opening other boxes, but to me, those are all things we have to think about when we are doing things for ourselves individually, things we can control versus in that influence. What are we influencing and how do we keep people to see the big picture, but also those small baby steps?
Yes. Yes. I'll add, like, if you can't lead yourself, why can't you lead the damn crew?
Yes.
Right. Like, and when I say lead yourself, let's just make it simple. If you can't have the amount of sleep that you need to have every day, you're not leading yourself. If you're not like being responsible about your nutrition and exercise, you're not leading yourself. If you can't deliver on the commitments that you make, you're not leading yourself. And so if you can't do any of those things, why the hell are you worried about the crew?
Yep. Look at Felipe's comment. It's right in line with what you're saying. At least my path is to live in alignment with my core self.
Boom. Yep.
Like this way puts me on the adventures that always include many other people, but like he's got to be in alignment with himself.
Yes. So we got to figure that out. And then Sam has a question for you. Sam says, did you find it finally hard to finally open yourself up to everyone, Jennifer Lacey?
I don't know why you thought that was to me. I think I found it hard. I didn't find it hard to open up because I have amazing people around me that, and I show up as me. So, being able to show up and share. I think what I found the most difficult is sharing that in a space with other people that are not in this group. So I have a very strong group around me and, people that tribe that help me do a lot of things, but getting it out there publicly and saying things that other people are now exposed to that conversation. And that was kind of, Jesse knows, that was the jump for me in that I know how I show up. I know all these places and what I do, but like publicly being able to go, this is me. And this is how I'm going to be everywhere. Like that was the scary part, I think, for me.
Yeah. Thank you, Jen. And Sam, I know you weren't asking Jen specifically, so I'll go ahead and lend a hand here.
Thank you.
Like, did I find it hard to finally open myself up to everyone? Absolutely. And it wasn't until about just over 7 years ago, that I even considered that would be an option. And it started off slow, maybe 2 years of really like, I'm not sure. And then now it's just like 100 miles an hour. It is difficult. What I had to let go of was the fear of all of the stuff, like all of these scenarios that I painted in my head were not true. The only way I discovered them to not be true was by actually taking the action and doing the thing, whatever it was, in terms of letting somebody in. Mm-hmm. And then like the sky didn't fall down. I'm like, oh, let me do that again. I did it again. The sky didn't fall down. Okay, let me do a little bit more. And I mean, hell, I just wrote a book with like 95% of all my garbage because the sky doesn't fall down, right? Like some people are going to love it. And I want it to impact people's lives. I believe it can. I believe it has. And I also know that some people ain't going to like it and they're going to cut me from their network. And I appreciate that. Like, I understand that. I may not be good for your image. Like hanging with me could make you lose some cred. So
you have to balance it.
And so there's a couple comments in here and some folks that like straight up are saying what their path is. And I want to make sure we recognize them. So Ian, he says, just when I think I have it figured out, I get humbled and I learn more about myself. It's easy to go down a path and feel like you're lost. I tend to compare myself to others. And then I realize that everyone else is just trying to figure it out too. Yes. It's your resiliency to hardships and challenges that will help you succeed. Beautiful, Ian. Thank you. And like Ian's a baller. He has enormous responsibility within his organization. And he's just admitted to the world, like, hey, he's just figuring it out too. And we're all there. Like once I kind of saw that, and I have a story about that in the book, right? Like, oh crap, we're all the same. It changed everything for me. And so back to the question of what is your path? Curious Idealist says, my path, my why, is to clarify complexity so that we realize the power we have to create the world we want to live in. Yes, love that, because we are absolutely creating it. We went over Felipe's. Jim says his path is like climbing up a mountain. It's hard and challenging, but that is what drives him. Cutting those ropes from the people that hold you back, have made the climb easier. Jen, I just saw you react to that.
No, because it's what we talked about, you and I talked about, and it's a piece that you wrote in the teaser for today. And so I want to pose it, and then I'm going to ask. But we talked about baggage. And again, it's easy to think about like the tangible, touchy baggage and the things that we can throw in the trash. But there were some live streams and a book that you were a part of that had a lot to do with maybe some emotional baggage or some things that had relationships and stuff like that. Can you dig into that a little bit?
Yeah. So I'm going to use this, right? Is you got to cut the ropes of the people that hold you back, having made the climb easier and letting go of that baggage. You know, I used to talk about this scenario where people would say that I was super aggressive, overly assertive, not serious, like all these things. And somebody asked me, like, who says that? I was like, shit. I spent a lot of time thinking about who does say that. Because before that question was asked, I don't even remember who it was that asked me. It was a long, long time ago. But before they asked me that question, in my head, everybody was saying those things. And when I actually examined who said those words, where did those words come from? There were two people. It was two people. And so what I had to do was I had to cut the connection that I had. Like, they're still in my life. I still love them. They support me. I support them. But I had to cut the connection in terms of, we're going to live in this world together. I recognize that you're not going to be on my path. You don't care to help clear the path, but we can be a witness to each other's lives. And so there's those types of things that are in my head. And Magana says, right, fear of what people will say is always there in the mind of everyone. 100%. And so one of the things I do to like manage that, because it may seem like I don't really care, like I'm not worried about what people, but I do. Like, I freak out about shit. What am I going to wear today? Am I going to comb my hair? What about the reflection in my glasses? Like, there's all this stuff that goes on in my head because I'm worried about what people are like, what the negative outcome of whatever it is may be. And I've learned to also to ask myself this: what could also be true? Meaning, yes, it is true that people can dog me and people can hate me and I could flop and it could be a total waste of everybody's morning. What could also be true? It could also be super engaging, super fun, deep, meaningful things, cheat codes like Amut says right here. Sometimes opening yourself to others starts with the blue heart, right?
Like that?
And so, you know, in terms of letting go of the baggage, most of the baggage, rather, I'll say it this way. Yes, I've cut people out of my life. Yes, I've left people behind at the train station, 300 miles back there, and they can get on the train and come catch up whenever they want. But the baggage that I had to let go of was the self-imposed baggage, right? The poor self-image one, the reputation. Like, for a very long time, I was the crazy wild guy that would race you down the street in his underwear just to have fun. Like, I was Stifler.
Mhm.
And I liked the attention that I got from being Stifler. I was the aggressive, assertive guy that would say things that offended people. And I didn't give a damn because I was going to tell them the truth, right? I'm a speaker of truth. But I offended people and I minimized them and belittled them. I liked the reputation that came with that. And so I had to let go of the baggage of this reputation, because what it made me or turned me into was a shell of what I could be. And I was doing this thing that other people, they got value from it, but it wasn't helping me grow and it wasn't helping me serve. So there was, I mean, in terms of baggage, that's some of the things. How'd I do, Jen?
I think you did great. And so I want to say this, and this was kind of going to be my wrap, but I want to say it because there may be some comments that go along with it. But Jesse, like, it's easy because of social media. It's so easy when we watch and see what people are doing, and we see the celebrations, and we see the amazing things that, you know, people are touching and impacting in the lives. And we are surrounded by people that are doing that like every day. And so we get on social media and we see what people are doing. Let's not forget that you're getting to see like this tiny bit of the effort, the, you know, the things that it took to get there, the recordings, the clips, all, like, you're seeing this much of like everything else going on in their lives. And so, like, don't get yourself so caught up on, I'm not doing that, I got to do that, gosh, this is doing that. And I'm going to use you as an example, Jesse, is we go through and we do the emotional bungee jumper stuff all the time, and we have stuff that you and I do together. So there are a couple of things that I want to pose, and then you can respond. But number one is, almost 2 years ago, you and I sat in a rental house that I was having because my house was like completely destroyed, and we were talking about this platform, and we were talking about like what was missing, what did we need to do, what could we possibly put out there that maybe could help. And almost 2 years ago, and you know, and some of the things we thought about is, you know, what if people jump on and they have these opinions, and what if, and we kind of had a moment, and then we went, well, we're just going to see what happens. And we haven't had people that go, what the heck is this? We haven't. And we've had nothing but momentum and people that are looking for a space like this. And so it's that try something and see, which you talked about. The other part is, Jesse, specifically, you are out there, you are visible. There's lots of clips, lots of things that you touch, and you're impacting, and you are becoming this promise. But when we go through that emotional bungee jumpers exercise, do you have problems?
Absolutely. We all have problems, right? Now, I think that and it's funny because I've seen it happen a couple times, specifically in that exercise, where people are like, I don't have a problem. I'm like, oh, you got a lot. You have no idea. But the fact that I have problems only means that I'm human, right? And yeah, I want to touch on the no BS thing and what it's become, and what it continues to grow into. Is you and I right out of the gate said, hey, it's not about followers, it's not about metrics, it's not about whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, people may show up and hate, and we might have trolls, and we might be judged and all of these things. Mm-hmm. But if we help one person, mm-hmm. it's a win.
Yep.
And I think, again, back to kind of what we were talking about at the beginning, is we decided to do this in service to others, mm-hmm. to bring some value and some a place for people to come and have these types of uncomfortable, raw conversation with my story and your story as the background, like our ilk, our goofy, embarrassing, whatever, short-sighted stuff, mm-hmm. so that we can talk about these things with other people.
Yes.
So anyhow, I think that's really important. Like when I'm doing something in service to others, it always works out. When I'm doing things to serve my own needs, it's hard work. It's a pain in the ass, and I'm not having fun. I'm not experiencing fulfillment. That's my thought.
Yes. We have
Yes.
some great people that are like, I think, like rolling out, like Thomas, and just we have some really good people that are they're tying this up really well.
Yes. So Thomas says, I'm going to read Thomas's comment and come to you with closing thoughts, and then
Okay.
we'll close it out. So Thomas says, I try to set my mind that the path is the destination. Whole. When energy is low or faced with conflict, I think to myself, my greatness is in the next 5 minutes.
Oh, yes.
Let's roll, baby. Thank you,
Uh,
Thomas. So closing thought, Miss Jennifer Lacey.
okay, two, and then I'm gonna, because I got 1,000 things I can talk about. So feeding off of Thomas, like when you're in that middle of something, how does this impact the next 5 minutes? How does this impact the next 24 hours? How does this impact the next 7 days? Like putting those things in perspective can really change like this whole big thing you're trying to do. So I love that. And I think the other piece is like when you are in the middle of something and you're like struggling or you're trying to navigate it, like put it out there and give it words and put it out in the world with another person. Because
Yes.
like like I call you with things that are in my head and I get it out and then now I've said it, I've voiced it, and now someone else can like we can have this conversation about it. But so many things stay in our head because we're fearful of judgment or whatever it is. Like just get it out and have the conversation with another person. So at least like there's some momentum somewhere. So that's it.
Boom. So my closing thought is this, because I know a bunch of people answered what their path is, and maybe one like, all right, Jack, but you didn't tell us what your path was. So my path is this. My path is sharing my gifts and talents and introducing people to the promise they are intended to be. I've received a lot of like pushback, like that's not really a goal, that's not really a like you're right. And it ties back to Thomas's point. The path is the destination. Mm-hmm. It's endless. There is no I've arrived, there is no finish line. It is a path of service, of introducing others to the promise they are intended to be. Period. Yes. And what that helps me do is not say I'm surrounded by floaters. So, folks, thank you for showing up and hanging out with us. There's a link out there for the after party. Hope y'all are going to be there. I'll do my best to kind of get it on all the different socials because we're over a couple of minutes now and I totally forgot about it. But it's on LinkedIn. If you can find it, hit it up. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts, your takeaways, and we want your ideas so we can build on that for the next conversation. So we'll see y'all later.